And Lou Crawford, second place. I just want to say it says a lot, not only about them as individuals, but about Mr. Johnston and our Weldon program for them to score this. When you look at the judges that were there, one of the judges was one of our former students. So it says a lot about our program that these young men can do what they do in our region, but also when they graduate from high school, go into their career field ready to go with certification. So I know have you started yet?
I start Monday.
You start Monday. So it means a lot. Scott, you want to say anything?
Yes, I'd like to thank all of y'all, Dr. Wells, Dr. Hoden, Mr. Maddox, wherever you are, Mr. Crawford, and anybody here from our local businesses. This is not possible without y'all's support. It's an expensive program, and you guys have dedicated everything to it, and I appreciate it. That's the only way it's going to happen. And these young men dedicated their education and their careers. They'll be making good livings and taking care of families and our neighborhoods and our school districts and everything else. So thank you, and thank you. Thank you all.
Let's do it.
Miss Logan, just thank you. 1, 2, 3.
Very much, guys. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Next, we want to recognize the yearbook staff. Ms. Burley, do you have any of your students with you? Okay. I'll let you do the introductions. I'm not sure who you have with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells and Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dr. Wells, we do have several of our yearbook staff members here tonight. I'd like to introduce those to you. We have our co-editors, Ashton Bryant and Dylan Coles. Beside Dylan, we have Hannah Davis, who was our advertising editor. We have Alexis Beam, who was our sports editor this year. Kinsley Bryant was our clubs editor. And Caitlin Davis Osment, she was our student life editor. So we have several of our students here tonight, all in their yearbook staff shirts. So we're here to make a little presentation to you. I know Ms. Ligon, I know she's looking forward to this. But just a few minutes to let you know what the students have been doing. This is a little over about half of our staff that's here with us tonight that were able to be here. And when we look at when they put together their yearbook, yes, they have a class, but there's much time that they have to spend outside of class, whether it's after school, attending school events, community events, the parade, the fair, whatever's going on that they want to cover the history of the school year. And they spend a lot of time. I don't ask them to keep, a log of all of their hours, but it would probably blow all of our minds if we looked at how many hours they put in. But the program that they use to actually create the pages, when we looked at that, that does keep track of each student's hours. And this year, they were a little under on that part. This doesn't include their interviewing, taking pictures, brainstorming, whatever. On the online part of their program, they were a little under 3,000 hours that they put in doing their graphic design and everything. So that's an amazing amount of time that these students have put in, and they were really dedicated to what they were doing. But they had a great year, and I have to share a little story with you. When you get your book tonight, the cover, The way the cover works is the students work together and come up with what they want for their theme. And they come up with ideas, and once again, a lot of brainstorming. And we send that information off to a graphic artist. And then we have an online session with a graphic artist. Well, this year, as in past, I know last year Dr. Wells came in and actually met with the staff for about an hour, year before last, to talk about some things when they did their show up theme. This year, Mr. Crawford was involved with the cover, and we just happened to ask him, and I know he's sitting back there now, but Mr. Crawford, I got to tell the story here. We asked him if he would like to come by on the cover session. And I'm thinking, it was after school, he'll pop in, see what they're doing, and he's out. Not our principal. He stayed for the entire session. And to watch, I wish I'd had a video camera, to watch the students' faces and Mr. Crawford as this cover came to life. And as the artist is doing things, the students a couple times, they would shake their, no, don't. I said, but you got to talk to the artist. He doesn't hear you. He's, halfway across the country. So the communication started. Well, Mr. Crawford gets a phone call. Had to step out for a couple of minutes. But when he comes back in the room, it was at the point, he didn't know this was going to happen, but the students wanted to incorporate our Amherst A on the cover. So the artist was in the process of trying to do what they wanted when Mr. Crawford walked back in. Well, his face, he lit up. He was so excited to see that. And I'll have to tell you, one of the students after the fact, they saw that. And all the students commented about how Mr. Crawford stayed the whole time. But the other comment was, did you see Mr. Crawford's face? It was like a child at Christmas opening his packages. Did you see the way he really lit up when he saw that A? So it really is, to see all that, but really to have the support from Dr. Wells, Mr. Crawford, all of our administrators, our teachers. If the students need to come in and take pictures or do interviews, our staff has been so supportive. So we're very, very thankful for that. So right now, these students tonight, they come bearing gifts. They would like to share their work with you. And we hope you will treasure this yearbook as much as they do, because their theme this year was treasure the tradition. So they want to share with you right now.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah. Beautiful.
You want to do a photo?
You know what happens when you pass these out at school? You know what happens when you pass these out at school? We may not even have a board. We can't.
Looking at.
Lot of work. Lots of work.
All right. Next, we have our community business partnerships. So as you know, we're trying to reach out to our community members and supporters of Amherst County Public Schools through our community. And this month, we're recognizing the Amherst County Public Schools Education Foundation. Over the years, they have contributed so much money towards our students and our staff and projects and things to help support us, and things that you didn't have to provide funding for. They provided funding for to support our kids and our staff. So I asked Mr. Ron Rasnick, who's president, I guess, of the Ed Foundation, to come say a couple words.
Just everything that we do for the students, we enjoy. We enjoy doing the fundraisers because we know the money's going to go to our students. We enjoy all of our partnerships that we have with businesses. Tomorrow, we're going to have a golf tournament as one of our fundraisers. We're hoping that goes well. We hope we don't have rain Last couple of times we did. We're open tomorrow, we don't. So everything that we do goes to our students, and we thoroughly enjoy all of it. And we hope that we continue to do that. We've been doing it for 21 years. 21 years. Golly, that's a long time. So I remember when I was a teacher, I got one of the grants, and it really helped the classroom. I ordered a lot of stuff for our math students. So it helps. It does. So all of these people back here
Y'all want to,
are the ones
members of the
that make
board,
it
y'all want
work.
to please come forward? And we'll get a photo of y'all.
Good evening, everyone. Just on behalf of the Education Foundation, I'm Jenna Foster. I'm the executive director. And just to kind of piggyback on what our chairman, Ron Rasnick, had to say, we love the opportunity to directly support each of our schools, and we have a lot of flexibility in the way we can fund, which is fantastic. It's fun for us. It makes the classrooms that much more innovative and exciting for the students. Since in our last 21 years, we've given away, or given back to the schools, I guess I should say, over $250,000. So over $250,000 has been raised through our community partnerships and fundraising and given right back to our schools. So we are a small nonprofit that does a lot of great work. So we want to thank you all. We want to thank our students and our teachers and our principals that continue to support the work that we do so that we can support them back. So thank you.
But if anyone wants to play in the golf tournament tomorrow, we have a few more spots. We can take a few more, so.
Anybody that wants to come, we'll take it.
Plus lunch, we'll take it.
We need to sign this, do you mind?
Oh, absolutely.
And then we'll take a picture. Joey might be broken out. Look at this, she wants a yearbook.
We have somebody on the board that can hook you up, I think, Mason.
We'll get this framed, we'll do a photo with it now.
Perfect.
I think a little bit more. Keep on going. Mrs. Justice, yep, right there. Miss Ligon, just a little bit. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Good job.
We'll get that framed. I can bring it to you tomorrow, or I can bring it to you today. Make sure I'm looking at the right piece of paper. Here we go. Okay, so next we're going to talk about our Piedmont Area Reading Council's Young Writers Contest winners. And we have the PAC medal for Janai Pruitt. Are you with us this evening, Ms. Pruitt? Present you with your medal. And your certificate. And the certificate says first place for nonfiction in 7th grade for the Piedmont Area Regional Young Writers Competition 2024. Definitely pictures every time.
Congratulations. 1, 2, 3. Good job.
We also, students that won awards there were the Regional Holocaust Awards. So we also have those awards, and we have River Lawhorn, Addison Hill, and Spencer Kidd. Are y'all with us this evening? If y'all, come on up. And Elena Antonucci. Come on up. Sorry. So these awards, Elena had first place for The Memory. River had second place for Dear Maggie. Third place was Cameron with The Life of Otto Frank. And honorable mention was The Holocaust Through the Eyes of a Jew, Chris Miller. And so I want to recognize you all for that. Thank you. And I think you received awards, though, at the school with your award ceremony, correct? So I don't have that to do tonight, but we can still get, we'll take your hand, we'll still get a picture, so congratulations. Good work. And we also had middle school poetry. And we had first place where The Grass Longer Grows, Maggie Jo Campbell. We had second place, I Don't Want to Go, Addison Hill. Third place, My Fenced-In Home, Spencer Kidd. And honorable mention, my grandmother was Abby Webster. Are any of you here this evening? Those are the ones I just did. Okay. All right, so we got everybody, right? Okay. Don't want to leave anybody out. Okay. And then science fair. We're off to the science fair. So Central Virginia Science Fair. We had, these are elementary. So we had Scholar Weeks from Elon Elementary, one for physics. We had Joel Reese, Central Elementary, for Virginia Resources. Maddie White, Amherst Middle School, won the Naval Academy Award, along with Mackenzie Campbell, won the Naval Academy Award. And first place physics went to Ambria Kazee from Amherst Middle School. Any of you here this evening? And you received your award already too, right? And she already received her award. You ready for a picture? Okay.
Ms. Thompson. 1, 2. Congratulations.
I think that's all my recognitions. All right.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Sorry, Gary. You can't see Gary. If he had done that, he would have jumped up there real quick.
All righty. Moving on to 3.0, public comment. Ms. McNarty, did we have anyone sign up? We did not. And now there's no one in the audience, so I'm assuming there's no one from the audience who'd like to speak. Moving on, 4.0.
Yes.
Comprehensive plan.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board, the past few months we've been working on a comprehensive plan. We attached the final draft that we've worked on at our last work session to the agenda. And we put in the changes we had discussed in that meeting. And at this point, I would ask that we have a vote to approve the comprehensive plan, and we can move forward and get started on implementing.
Okay. Board, have you had a chance to look, make sure everything was changed appropriately? Okay. Can I have any discussion, a motion?
Discussion, maybe?
Well, we can have a motion and discussion, or we can have discussion. Go ahead.
I really appreciate all the work that's been done, and I think it's very reflective of what we've talked about. One of the concerns that I have about just approving it at this point is that I know that you were going to work on a one-page type of thing of our core values and beliefs. So perhaps if we do vote on this tonight, we could vote on those core values and beliefs separately, or we could wait till they were attached. And then one of the things that I raised just a little bit of some concern about when we met was just the accountability piece, like for forums or committees, the accountability to Dr. Wells or to our core values or beliefs. So I guess that, and then things that would require funding initiatives and new positions. So, I don't know. I guess I'm just a little concerned on just doing approval without having some assurances on how we might handle those.
Okay.
Okay. So I thought I covered some of those in the email I sent to staff back in I guess 3 weeks ago, so I thought, but we can give you what you need, but we were hoping to get this approved so we could do the one-pagers and the other things. So I have the information to base it off of to make sure I was creating the document based on what y'all had approved, not creating a document that y'all hadn't approved yet. So that was my thought process. It can go, if it's up to you, it's up to the board. If you want us to prepare that and have it ready, we can. I think we're supposed to have it in place by July 1st, but I think, if it's not, I don't think I think if July is around and y'all want to wait till the July meeting, that's fine, but it's up to the board.
Okay. Board, any other comments, questions, discussion?
Mr. Terry,
Yes, sir.
I would think that maybe our defining statement should be what all of this is based off of. And I do understand getting this locked down first. But I think that core one page would be what all this should be based off. And this should expand on that. So I agree that maybe we should have that document before approving the rest.
Okay.
Not that I find anything wrong with what we have here. I don't disagree with what I have here. I think that one page is important.
Okay, but is that something that we could approve as a separate document?
That's a separate
Because-
document. That would not be part of your comprehensive plan. That would be the board's core values or whatever you want to call it. That could be a separate document.
Right.
That is in alignment with the plan. But again, that's up to the purview of the board.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, we've spent a lot of time on this. I thought we were all good on it, and I understand what Dr. Wells is saying, because he doesn't want to work on a one-pager if we haven't okayed this. I don't see why we just don't go ahead and okay it and
Okay.
move on.
Okay. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, I would be fine with approving the one-pager after approving this. I guess I would like to understand if we approve this, are the initiatives and the positions that are listed in here specifically, are we committing to funding these because we approve this?
No, ma'am. This is the goal. These are like your goals and objectives, so to speak. And we try to get to where we can. So if there was a funding issue, or you decided not to, or we didn't have the funds, or something happens and we go a different direction due to what, with our last comprehensive plan and COVID hit, we had to go do a 180 and go a totally different direction. So it's a guide. It's where you want to. It's what you have said you want it to get to. But if we find that funding is an issue, or the board changes its desire to do things, and it's a working document. It's not locked in. So I don't think you're legally bound to do anything in this document.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else from the board? Okay.
Motion to approve?
Okay, you look like you had another question. That's why I was waiting. So there's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion before we vote? Okay, so hearing none. Oh, yes, ma'am.
So do we need to amend the motion to stipulate that at a later date, a one-page is coming?
I think that's a given.
Well,
It's like an
we're
executive
approving-
summary, right? I mean,
Right.
It's my impression that we're improving just this piece right here. That piece would come later.
I'll bring that to you in July, and you can approve that.
That's its own.
Unless you want to do another work session
That's
to
its
work
own
on it.
document.
But I can bring it to you in July, and you can see that, and we can approve it in July if that is, again,
Okay.
best of board's desire.
And then you referenced an email that you thought covered what Mrs. Thompson was talking
Yeah,
about?
when Ms. Thompson asked me, and I sent that to y'all, I think, before one of our earlier work sessions in May. So I thought I'd hit a few of those things, but again, it may not have been clear, so that's fine. I'll be glad to go back in and rework on that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Justice, I believe that Dr. Wells sent that out to us, and it delineated things in here that required funding. It didn't address the question I was asking tonight, is that if approval of this mean that we are granting approval of the funding? I think he did list out in that email for us what those specific things and items might be.
But every funding issue still comes before the board to be approved. So there's not like, just because it's in there doesn't mean it's a guarantee.
Okay.
It's still your purview to approve.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion. Any other discussion? Okay, so there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, Dr.
All
Wells?
right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I will get to work on the one-pager. I'll have that to you to review before the July board meeting, and we'll have that broken down. We're also working on the, what's the word I want to use? The magazine glossy or the Cliff Notes version of this
Summary.
too, that you will get, and we'll have that for you. I don't know if it'll be ready for July. We can give you a draft of what we have in July before the July meeting, so you can see that, as well as the graphics we're putting in there. So I think you all like how that's going to turn out as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, next.
The next I have is consider approval for school board meeting dates. Ms. Maneri, can you? So we have gone through the calendar. It is the last meeting of this year, so we're going into next year with July. And so basically, it's the same format we've been using. I did add a work session in October, on October 24th, and that is to review budget priorities of the board before we get too deep into budget process. So I thought we'd have a couple-hour work session so you can express your budgetary concerns and requests as we get into the budget season, as we get into November and December.
Okay.
Other than that, the budget, the calendar is pretty much based on what you had this year.
Okay. And it's pretty much the second
Yes.
Thursday, except for the one in March, right?
That's the retreat, that's budget.
Gotcha. I was looking at it wrong.
Yeah,
Yep.
February, March, we have those extra meetings for budget
Gotcha.
retreats.
Okay. 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 Do you need anything?
Just need you to approve it.
Okay. So, any discussion on it, board?
I think the only thing I can see is, and I don't know if we could add it or not, if the board wants to, is I really appreciate the session budget priorities to touch base. Is there any way we can get one more of those in before the school board retreat?
Well, I start really getting into, once I get to all the planning and start the planning process, we really start building it in December. And so, and looking at numbers and trying to get those aspects of it done. So, technically we could get together again, but I don't know if it would be beneficial because I have to get the process going in December and early January, and then I'll bring it to you, late January into the beginning. So if you want to meet a second time, we can. I would say January would be when to do it, but it wouldn't really be we could tell you where we are with what we're proposing and trying to work in there, but I'm hoping I'll get all that from you in October. And like if you, let's say a 3% raise or a 4% raise or a 5% raise, and how can I work that in to get that to you? So that's already in there as opposed to, I have it when I build it as opposed to waiting until February.
Can we just wait to see if we need it before we schedule it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can always schedule a meeting.
Yeah, we can add. So. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the calendar for the school board meetings.
Okay, there's a motion.
I second. Oh,
Okay.
go for it, Aaron.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, Dr. Wells?
Next, you have the consent agenda.
Okay, 5.0.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
On the May 9th minutes, I have a couple of suggestions or changes that I'd like under some of my comments. Do we have to have these approved tonight? Can I give you those and approve them in July?
Yeah, once they're approved, they have to post them. Doesn't say you have to approve them at this meeting.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to pull the May 9th minutes and for the July meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll need a motion to pull from the consent agenda, and then approve that, and then you will approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Right.
Okay, so can I get a motion?
I thought that's what I did.
Okay.
I make a motion that we pull May 9th minutes from
Okay.
the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, wow. Things live. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we pulled the minutes from May. Can I get
Ninth.
another?
May
May
9th.
9th, May 9th, excuse me.
'Cause we had 3
Can I-
meetings in May.
Can I get another
I
motion?
make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Okay. And Ms. Thompson, if you just let us know those concerns. Thank you.
all righty.
All right, next we have 6.0 Administrative, Dr. Hoden, Mr. Oakes, and Dr. Patron.
I'm going to let Mr. Roke start on some construction updates so you guys can see the slideshow.
All right. Good stuff.
So we have made,
Got it?
there you go. So we made just a little bit of progress in the last month. Actually, a lot of progress in the last week. So for the entire project, all the footers are complete now. That ties the, up to this point, we had finished the auditorium part, but now they've gone around to the cafeteria side, back against the school, to the existing school and tied back in. So all those footers are complete now. And that's the, right there where you're looking, you're sort of looking back at the school, almost right at the main entrance. If you look, you can't see there's some pylons for the columns to the right there, and that's the main entrance going back into the new addition to the school itself. Concrete pours, they're ongoing. Actually, we have another one scheduled for the week after next. They'll do some prep, slab prep next week. A couple trucks coming in for telebelts Monday and Wednesday of next week to pour the gravel in the cafeteria area, and the other part that's not poured right up next to the building, next to the mechanical room. So this is the concrete pour on the slope part of the auditorium. Again, that was the picture to the left. Obviously, was before sunrise. We were out there that morning. I think it was the 5 o'clock morning that day. We were pouring concrete. So. Again, pictures of the process, leveling some of the equipment and things they use to go through the process as far as the concrete pours go. This is looking in the very center part of the cafeteria, center part of the auditorium, on the flat part in the seating area before it goes down the slope, looking toward the stage and the classrooms itself. The new parking lot is coming along. They should be paving that, finish paving that next week, the 12th and 13th. What you see on the picture on the right-hand side is they've already done the travel lanes through there, which is a thicker asphalt. And they'll come back next week to put another coat on top of that, as well as the parking area. So as of Wednesday next week, that should be complete, weather permitting. Plumbing is done. The rough-in plumbing, rather, is done out in the new section up to this point. The picture on the left is the new bathroom for the auditorium. And that's just to the left of the existing entrance between the old gym and the new gym. That used to be an entrance right there, but that is a new bathroom on the left. And the big pipe you see coming out at your right, there's a 10-inch pipe. That's for roof drains coming off the existing roof as well. The masonry work, that is really what has hopped this week. And they said it would, and it did, and it has. Everything you see here has happened since Monday of this week. And it's a lot of significant improvement, and they've done a lot. And even up today, I left out of there about, I guess, 3:30 today. And what they're doing now is laying the block up next to the existing building, going around by the girls' locker room, around the old entranceway, around the cafeteria, and coming back out that way. They have to lay up about three levels of brick, or block rather, so they can come in and pour the stone in there next week and get ready for the concrete pour the following week. So they have right much that complete, and hopefully we'll have that complete tomorrow. This is looking at the corner of the building. This is the back corner of the classrooms, looking where the parking lot will be, and then to the right of that is the existing shed that we use for sports and things. But this is looking back to the school. So this is the back hallway, and actually the corner of the band room is what we're looking at right there. And a view from the roof. This was, I don't know, 2 days ago. Again, all the block work has been done. So that section that's blocked in right there, that is the classrooms. Up toward the top of the screen would be the band room. In the middle of the screen would be the choir room. And up here closest to the school would be the theater room. So that those block walls are twice that size right now. I think they're roughly about 12 feet in the air right now as of this afternoon. And we've also, this week, we started the interior demolition in the what you see in the left picture there is the one of the boys' or girls' bathroom in the new gym. That demolition process is pretty much completed there now, as well as what you're looking at. The right picture is or what was the lobby of the gym, and the trophy cases and all that stuff. We had our maintenance guys got in there Monday morning at 6 a.m., removed all the fixtures, the stalls, everything in the 2 bathrooms, removed all the furniture stuff from the coach's office and all the items out of the concession stand itself. And then the demo company came in and did all the heavier stuff. But we got in there about 6:30 Monday morning, and we were out of there by 9 so that the contractors come in and do their thing. The picture on the left is in the coach's office. As you come off the new gym, and you'll see those 2 areas right there that have got new block laying into them. That they were at one time windows. As you know, the new wall will be coming up right in front of that. There's a 2-inch space between the 2 walls, and between the new addition and the existing building. And so obviously, we got those in, removed the windows, and got them in right behind each other as far as the masonry contractor. This is up looking on the roof. See the transition point from last month to this month. As you note, this is the picture dated when I took it on 5/7. This is 5/27, Memorial Day weekend. I went up there and climbed on the roof to get a picture of that. And as you can see there, all the concrete is complete over to the end of where the cafeteria will start. And you don't see any block walls down there. However, as of 6/5, that's where we're at. So again, next week we finish the paving on the parking lot, continue the masonry work, begin slab prep for the remaining concrete, and that's going to start on Monday. And also coming up in July, we'll be starting the new, adding in the new water line on Lance Lane, which is coming off South Main Street. They'll bore underneath South Main Street, right at the entrance of the school, right next to the sign up front on that side of the road. And we'll be coming up on the school side of Lance Lane and running a new 6 or 8 inch water line plus a domestic water line then as well. So any questions as far as the construction project goes? again, a lot of activity, and then the block work will continue to run rapidly over the next couple of weeks or so.
Great. Board, anything?
Yeah. How many yards of concrete have we poured already?
I'll find that answer out for you. I know last time I think I had the figures up here. The first pour we did 130 some yards. The second pour was like 76, that's 80 yards. But I'll talk to Andrew with Lloyd Construction next time I see him.
Plus the piers and all the concrete in the walls.
Yeah, it's been a significant amount. And then on top of that, you also have what we call a grout. It's basically like concrete. So in these blocks, you have the rebar that come up. In order to hold those blocks in place, they also have to pour grout. It's basically a lighter form of the concrete. And they get that in about 2 or 3, 4 yards at a time. And they actually have a machine where it goes up and we pour it into the open places of the block to hold the rebar in place, as well as the conduit and those type of things. So it's been a significant amount. I know probably tomorrow we'll have another 100 tons of 57 stone to come in to prep the slab and everything. So yeah, I'm like you, Mr. Rossi, keeping up with the figures like that is just intriguing.
Yeah.
Of how much we've done so far.
Sure, it won't be as much as a Hoover Dam, but that's a lot of concrete. That's a lot.
But it is significant. So again, we entertain any questions you have, but we're moving forward at a rapid pace. And the other thing you might be hearing about, and this came up in the last couple of weeks, we have to get into the interior part of the school right now to tie in some of the infrastructure from inside into the new facility, such as roof drains. The roof drains over top the coach's office and over top of the girls' locker room. When we come up with those new walls in the addition, it will create like a swimming pool in there. So we have to be able to get into the old part from the new part to get the roof drains out. That big 10-inch pipe I showed you, that's what we tie those into. So we're working on that demo as well, and also in the kitchen area as well. We'll work on that in the next few weeks too.
And budget?
So far, we're on schedule. Things pop up, but of course, Mr. Hoden, Dr. Hoden will talk about some things here on that in a minute to help us. But we're on track where we're supposed to be. Everybody's watching it. But as you know, once we start getting inside, little things pop up. Like for instance, we're in a coach's office, and it was just had to have just painted once we got into the demo part. But in the actual where the coaches sit, they had old paneling, wood paneling at the bottom and like sheetrock, the stucco type effect on it. And it was just in poor shape. And Dr. Wells and Dr. Hoden, I was talking to them about it. It's like, we can't leave, like we're spending all this money.
Right,
It's nickel and dime, if you will, to fix that and paint the concrete walls so everything will look nice. So we, the three of us make those decisions. We involve Mr. Crawford as well. But, we look at those things on a day-to-day basis. If something comes up, we talk amongst ourselves to make sure we can do it and talk about those on a daily basis.
Awesome.
But as projects continues, and particularly as we get inside, you start peeling back the onion on oil construction. You don't know what you're going to have.
I understand that completely.
But we're prepared for that. We do have contingencies in place.
Good. Thank you.
So the other thing, as far as summer work goes, we began painting, the contract began painting Eagle Elementary School yesterday. The main hallway, if you go in right at the office area and turn left, that whole front hallway has been painted. Started on the classrooms as well. So we've been working with the school to schedule. Not only do we have to paint it, we also have to do the floors and the summer cleaning as well. So we've been coordinating with them and trying to get the painters ahead so their custodial staff can come in and take care of those things too. So we got those projects going on. And in addition to that, too, we started back on the greenhouse at Amherst Middle School. So we work with the contractors on that. If you drive past that, you'll see some work has been done on that. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, you'll see some walls go up and a slab being poured and, progress through the summer as that, too. So in addition to all the other summer work, we do have a few things we got going on. So it keeps us occupied and out of trouble.
There you go.
If you have any questions, please contact me or Dr. Wells, Dr. Hoden, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Board, anything else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Rokes.
In addition, several other projects going on, which we'll talk about to you at some point in time that deal with safety and security. So those are all things going on this summer. So lots of good things, lots of things that were needed, and we're excited to get all that going on. Next, I'd like to talk to you about the grant. I know Dr. Wells has already shared that with you. So that was the grant that we applied for last fall, and then we thought we would hear, I think, in November and then January, but we finally did hear. We got the $6.7 million, which was absolutely fantastic. So we're able to add in a lot of the things that we value engineered out of the project. We're able to add those back in and move some funds around to do some other projects. So we're very excited for that. And then, of course, Mr. Rossi some of that money will kind of stay back as contingency if we need some others. So we're very excited to get that grant, and we'll be able to kind of outline a few more things for you in July as to exactly what those are and some costs for you for some much-needed projects. Dr. Wells, do you want to add anything to that?
I can, yeah, thank you, Dr. Hoden. So I've been working with Mr. Bryant from the county side and the grant and how we can apply that. And so been talking, I met with the Board of Supervisors, just gave them the big numbers as far as 6.7, and then our staffs will work together with the county to look at the projects and things and then bring it to you or a recommendation. And we are trying to, the Board of Supervisors has a meeting on the 16th of July, and I'm trying to coordinate a meeting for them before their board meeting to go to the high school and actually tour the facilities. And I'd like to invite you as well on the 16th. It'll be around 4 p.m. We've talked to the general contractors, they're aware, and so y'all can kind of see. By then we should have some steel being hung and things of that nature. So if you can be there, great. If you can't, we understand. But we're going to try to bring, see if the Board of Supervisors, since they have a meeting that evening, can come take a quick tour of what we're working on up there too.
What time?
July 16th at 4. And we'll give you more information once we get things locked in 100%. But right now, that's what Mr. Bryant and I are working on, and I presented that to the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday as an option as well. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Hoden?
Any other questions on construction? All right, next, 6.02, you have a memo from Ms. Klein that outlines prices for next school year for lunches. Next year, we will be on the CEP, which means all students eat free, which is absolutely fantastic. In that, she has to then set meal prices for adults. Well, please understand that she just doesn't arbitrarily set that. Basically, the USDA sets prices on that, and how she comes up with that, there's a performance-based reimbursement, there's a per value, and then the minimum price for adults is $4.65. So that is the charge that we're charging. So we're charging the USDA minimum, and then breakfast is the same thing. The actual minimum is $2.73, but we're charging $2.75. So those are the cost for that. And then there are also no increases for milk or ice cream. I know the students are very happy for no increases on ice cream. Questions on that?
And board, anything for Dr. Hoden?
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, I see there's no increase for the milk and ice cream. Very good.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
6.03, you have the proposed revisions to the policy manual.
So again, this is first read. This is the newest edition, which we received last week. So we have written our memos, and they're for you. We could bring them back in July for a second and discussion. This is just first read.
Okay. Okay.
Next is 6.04, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Petrone.
Yeah, so I'm here tonight to talk to you about ATSS, but first I'm going to go a little rogue and tell you about something else I've been working on. So we had our triennial assessment of our wellness policy this year, and it's something that's required by the USDA. And we have to post our results to our website by June 30th. So I've been working on that with Dr. Hoden, Craig Maddox, and Kim Klein. And we are working on developing a new wellness policy that we will bring to you next month for a first read that is more in line with the model policy put out with USDA, but is also edited to be appropriate for what we're doing in Amherst. So that will be something I'll talk about next month. But I just wanted you to know because we're going to be posting the results of the triennial audit on our website. Okay, so ATSS. This stands for Amherst Tiered Systems of Support. And before I get started, I want to shout out to Natalia Cecil and Jennifer Peters, who are my co-collaborators in this endeavor. And they, along with we serve as the coaches for the division. We also have school coaches, so all of them do amazing work trying to support this whole program. Amherst Tiered Systems Support is our way of implementing multi-tiered systems of support, which is an evidence-based model. And we have support from Virginia Tiered Systems of Support because everybody has to have their own little moniker. And they support us with a grant that helps us fund all of our work, professional development, technical support, and coaching. So I went a little too far. No, come back. Okay, there we go. So what is ATSS? It's basically a decision-making framework. It's how we look at data, determine what systems are working, what practices we need to change and modify or put into place so that we can best support our students and staff. We do a lot of tiering, and that's what that triangle there at the bottom is. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but that's one of the ways that we put systems in, is to try and support students and meet their needs through tiering interventions. And we do this in a lot of different areas. It's not just in, academics. We absolutely do it in academics, but it's not just in that. We also do it in behavior, attendance, emotional skills, school climate. All kinds of different areas get the same type of support. And it's all for the purpose of having well-rounded children. So to unpack the tiers a little bit, and I'm actually going to start at the bottom of this with tier 1, which is the green at the bottom. That is what we do for everybody, and this is what we want to have targeting all students. 100% of students get tier 1 interventions. This is good quality instruction or good quality behavioral supports. So everybody gets it, and we want that to be our strongest tier. That's where we want to do the best work. Then when students are struggling, we move on to tier 2. This is more like small group interventions or systems that just target lesser numbers of children. And then tier 3 is more individualized support. When a student can't make it with tier 2 and tier 1, we do individualized things just for them to help them make it. So as part of this system, we progress monitor, and we do that through all of the things you see there: the division capacity assessment, the tiered fidelity inventories, which measures each school's functioning in the system. We have an academic TFI, which does the same thing. And then we now have our division and school support plans looking at that. And of course, we're always looking at student data. So here's how we're doing right now. You can see that yellow line there is at 70%. That is having implemented all 3 systems, all 3 tiers with fidelity. We are obviously not there yet, but you see we're moving in the right direction. So in 2020, we were at 15%. Now we're at 45% this year. And it breaks it down a little bit more on the next slide. Get it to go. Woo. There we go. Okay, so the first grouping there is tier 1, and you can see we're really strong in tier 1, and that's where we want to have the best strength. That's what every student is getting. That means that our tier 1 in academics, our tier 1 in behavior is doing what it's supposed to do. So we're really proud of those numbers having exceeded the 70%. And then you can see tier 2 and tier 3, we kind of trickle off. And that's for a variety of reasons. Our high school numbers actually are pretty good because they've been doing this for a long time. Our elementary schools were just brought into the advanced tiers, tier 2 and tier 3, so they are not as advanced, but they're making progress. And so that's where we're going to be focusing our efforts here coming up soon. So what's next for us? We're going to be doing a lot of professional development this summer, and a lot of that is around advanced tiers so that we can make those gains in those areas and make sure that our kids are getting all the support they need. We're continuing to do this with our grant funding. We're going to pay some of our coaches and teachers to come in over the summer and do those trainings so that we could support our schools. We also have our school support plans, which is replacing our CSIP process from prior years. So we're redesigning our teams a little bit next year. Our coaches are still going to be really important parts of this, but we're going to give them different types of support to try and make the new school support plans work. And all of that is so that we can have the best systems for interventions and we can do what's right for our kids and support the whole child. So is there any question about Amherst tiered systems of support?
Board, anything for Dr. Patron?
Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir.
As I look at the bar graphs and I do see the growth, but we're looking at 4 years and like tier 2 is only at 35% after 4 years.
Ooh, I can't get it to stay. Yeah.
How long do you project us getting to the 70%?
They say it's a 5-year process, and so some of our schools went into tier 2 and tier 3 2 years ago. Most of our schools did, in fact. So we're in the 2nd year for all of our elementary schools. We're in the 3rd year for our middle schools. Our high school has been in it for 5 years, and if I had their numbers broken out, they're probably hitting the 70%.
So we're going to hit it once
Yeah.
we get there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Board, anything else? Yes,
One
ma'am.
question. Dr. Petrone, on these graphs, it entails academics, discipline, all of that incorporated into these?
No, this is actually a measure of our implementation. So it's a measure of our systems that are supporting all of those areas and how we're implementing tiered systems. It's not a measure of like how we're doing academically or how we're doing a behavior. It's like,
So it's not like tier 2 for discipline, it's.
correct, it's
Or
everything. Yeah, it's the system that's supporting all of that.
So we do an inventory, and we have to go through and self-evaluate and kind of see where we are on implementation. And if we haven't hit one of the 30 things we're supposed to do, we get a 0 for it. If we partially implement it, we get like 2 points for it. And it just kind of gives us an opportunity to evaluate ourselves to know where we are on the implementation process.
I could provide those inventories. I think I had them linked in here, but I just tried to click on it and it didn't work. So if I didn't hyperlink them properly, I can provide those inventories.
Another thing, too, to think about in 2020 and 2021, you know what was happening across Virginia and the nation. So some of the things when kids weren't in school and teachers were teaching remotely and things like that was very, we were just on hold. So even though we may have been having some things in place, we couldn't really implement as well during that time.
Mr. Terry,
Yes, ma'am.
excuse me. So I think a question I have is, what are the results what do we use to evaluate the effectiveness of the program? I see a graph that depicts the implementation process and where we're at. But what's the fruit that we're looking for? What are the measurements?
Yeah, well, what I'm showing you tonight is really about the implementation. This is an accountability for the grant purposes, but we look at student data for the actual effectiveness. And so that's where we're looking at, are our students who we have identified for Tier 3 supports moving into Tier 2 and improving? Or are they staying in Tier 3 and needing additional support? So we're looking at that on an individual student level.
Anything else, board? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Petrone.
Thank you.
Okay, 6.05, you have the student suspension reports for May. Please note that the last day of school was the 31st, just a few days ago, so we had some additions to that over the last few days. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Board, anything for Dr. Hooden?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on. 7.
I am not Kim Lakonich. She is not here this evening. But for the finance report, we discussed this some of this at our meeting, work session last week. However, if you have any questions on the finance reports, just in general, we're looking okay. We're in good shape. But if you have specific questions, I would encourage you to contact her directly, and she can answer those. She'll be back in the building on Monday, but she is out of the building this week.
Okay. Good for her. So. Board, anything that Dr. Wells could possibly answer? Okay. Moving on.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Following my example, Dr. Wells down the table, I'm not Dr. Norman, but and happy to be sitting in for her this evening. Several items for the board tonight. The first, I wanted to give a quick update on where we stand with our pre-K VPI enrollment to date. And Ms. Albert was kind enough to give me an updated list fresh off of their eligibility determinations this afternoon. We received 125 applications so far. Puts us very close to on par with where we were last year. 67 so far have been found eligible based on that VPI criteria, and only 2 so far have been ineligible. That's a fantastic eligibility rate compared to years past. We do have close to 30 that are pending, so there's some eligibility considerations from an income standpoint, from an eligibility under other service areas standpoint. Those are still in process, and we're happy to report we've been able to refer almost 30 families to Head Start so far this year. So So that coordinated enrollment activity, those efforts working with those other agencies for our youngest students is working quite well, and commend Ms. Albert and her team for all the work she has put into that. So at this point, we are on pace to be able to move towards filling those seats that we need to. If the board will recall, we actually received more seats this year, about 20 more than we had for this current school year. So ultimately, we feel like we're on a good track to be able to fill those, but we're getting the word out. Ms. Albert has ordered signs that are going to be going up all over Amherst County. You'll be seeing those very soon. We've also worked with some of our local businesses to park buses with signs on those near some spots that we know are frequented in the county. So trying to get the word out. Preschool's available. Our doors are open. We want to serve as many students as we possibly can. So again, commending Ms. Albert and her work so far on getting that word out. I also have, as a part of 8.01, an update on kindergarten enrollment, and the board has a memo in board docs reflecting that. Very happy to say that we have 224 students enrolled thus far. It does note there's an additional 22 students that have not been assigned a home school yet as a part of that registration process. So that number is looking much closer to where we were last year this time with those 22 students included. All in all, a good effort thus far, a lot of registration, a lot of initial meetings with those families and students, and feeling good about our trajectory moving into the fall. All right, so before I move off 8.01, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Board, anything for Mr. Neighbors? Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, 8.02, we have for you tonight the final draft of our ACPS Division Literacy Plan. The board will recall last month we were able to bring the initial draft to you all for review. At this point, all we have done to edit this draft is incorporate in the adoption of our curriculum open court. So that is reflected in our literacy plan. There were several areas where we had to make sure that that was noted, as well as the timeline for that adoption. Nothing else has substantially changed since this came to you last month. We did want the board to have this final draft for review. There's no approval necessary this evening, but obviously we wanted you to see it before this goes live and we're moving forward into next year. Again, we'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Yes, ma'am.
Has the Virginia Department of Education determined Tier 2, Tier 3 options yet?
So there are ongoing efforts with that. I know we've been talking about those supplemental materials you're referring to. We do have a good number of those in the literacy plan in regards to ones we've already incorporated into the program here in Amherst. I know when it comes to this particular part, those are ones that continue to be added to, continue to be reviewed from the Department of Education. But as of this point, we felt very comfortable and frankly excited that a lot of what we'd already been using was already on those lists with the department looking at.
Okay, so the ones that are here under supplemental instruction for K-5 and intervention K-5, those are ones we've already currently been using?
For the vast majority, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Are there any that you recognize that may be new?
Maybe no. Let me double check for you. I don't want to tell you wrong. Off the top of my head, I do not, but I would like to double check with
Okay,
Ms. Wheeler and
that's
Dr.
fine.
Norman if that's okay.
Thank you.
Wouldn't want to provide the board any incorrect information on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Neighbors.
All right. Well, I hope that, yep, there is Mr. Goldman in the back. I'm going to like to bring up Mr. Joe Goldman, talk to us about the Division Technology Plan.
Good evening, members of the board and our community at home. Those at home, I'm sorry we had audio issues for the first few minutes. My sound cable somehow got unplugged, and it took me a few minutes to plug those back up. So I'm here tonight to discuss the 2024-2029 ACPS Educational Technology Plan. Brittany, do you mind backing up? Perfect, thank you. First, so what is the tech plan? This slide was taken from the VDOE's slide deck, and I think it does a good job of explaining it. So, Code of Virginia requires the Department of Education to develop a plan as part of its comprehensive plan. The 2024-29 Virginia Educational Technology Plan was reviewed and adopted in December of 23. Local technology plans, that's our plan, that's what you see before you, help school divisions identify resources and strategies to promote the most effective uses of technology. Next bullet point. VDOE aids and resources. That's strangely worded to me. I think maybe it should say aids and provides resources to help school divisions develop their local plan consistent with state law. Skipping down a little bit. Should be part of the division comprehensive plan, whether written as separate or included within, and it should be reviewed, revised, and at the same time, adopted at the same time as the comprehensive plan. So we adopted that tonight, so we're right on schedule here. And then lastly, on this slide, in years past, and what I mean by that is 2015, 2018, we would have to submit the plan to the VDOE for approval, and that changed, I think it was 2018, to where it's just a checkbox on the SOQ report at the end of the year saying, do you have a technology plan? Yes, yes we do. Thank you, Brittany. The plan consists of 3 main areas: access, use, and design. So I'll just read access. Strengthen schools and communities with a safe, secure, and robust technology infrastructure to support access to all educators, students, leaders, and families. Next slide, please.
Uh-oh, there we go.
Now, I consider those goals. Access, use, design, my words, goals. The state just says, access, 1.1, 1.2. So I'll consider those strategies. So 1.1, plan for scalable, sustainable technology infrastructure that can support current, innovative, and emerging technologies. Next slide, please. And so here's just the first page of the plan, and you guys have the whole plan on board docs. But we use the same format as the comprehensive plan. What I mean by that is the goal, the strategies, who's responsible, timelines, resources, how we're going to monitor, etc. So how did we create this? Who was part of the committee? It was myself, the ITRTs, Dr. McGinnis, Mr. Maddox, Dr. Norman. Mrs. Wheeler helped us for a few minutes. And I hope you all are happy with the plan. I know we are. And I thank you for your time, your support. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. And if I can't, I'll get you an answer ASAP.
Board, any questions for Mr. Goldman? Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Terry, thank
Yes,
you. So, Mr. Goldman, I'm presuming that, like our comprehensive plan, this is not us making a fiscal commitment.
That's correct.
But it is our goal, it's a forward-thinking plan of what we would like to accomplish.
Yes.
But any purchasing or major investment would still have to come before the board.
Correct. Nothing in here. We're not agreeing to new staff or new resources or anything.
Okay. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, board? Thank you, Mr. Goldman.
Thank you. Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Before I move to 8.04, I believe one of my future informants was listening tonight, so I did get some information for the board. None of the supplemental materials listed are new. We are using all of those currently. I was also asked to note that in September, the Virginia Department of Education will be coming out with secondary supplement materials, so looking out beyond those grade levels have been adopted thus far. So that'll be coming on the horizon, but nothing that will affect this plan.
And I think that's what I was talking about,
Yes,
the ones
ma'am.
that are coming.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. So
We're on page.
quicker
On board.
confirmation than I was expecting. But,
He didn't phone a friend, but a friend phoned him.
it's great when it works the other way. That's wonderful. All right, 8.04, I know Dr. Norman is very disappointed not to be here for the very final review of our ESSER plan. We do have updates for the board this evening, both the plan for safe return as well as the spending plan. You will note that most of the edits, all of which have been redlined in both documents, are mostly clerical in nature, recognizing dates for which things are going to be done, and also addressing things that have already been accomplished, putting those in the past tense, and being able to move forward. So no substantial changes here. It does note the shift into this new fiscal year of 0 FTE. So from a positional standpoint, moving away from those ESSER funds that we've been using for the last several years for any positions with that. Aside from those, some clerical corrections, some additional recommendations or pieces that have been put in to represent what those funds have been used for for programs to be able to complete and progress within those. But all in all, mostly clerical, mostly dates as the board is going through and looking at those this evening. Again, nothing that needs to be approved, but certainly want the board to be aware of those plans and would be happy to answer any questions y'all might have at this point.
Board, anything for Mr. Neighbors? Thanks, sir.
Well, 9.01, you all are still stuck with me for one more section here. I do have for the board in board docs, Ms. Albert was kind enough to put together a memo about some of our changes upcoming with our early childhood programs. As we mentioned before, very pleased with our relationship with outside agencies. Lynn Cag Head Start and Bright Beginnings have both been wonderful partners for us here in Amherst, expanding available opportunities for families of our youngest learners, really connecting them with the supports that they need. So very, very glad to have those partners here in Amherst. One of our big moves for next year is actually based on some success that we had this year. As the board might recall, we shifted our programming from Amelon Elementary School to Madison Heights Elementary School to create a larger pre-K hub within that school. That has been a wild success. I hear from Mr. Hutchinson, Ms. Engel all the time how much they enjoy having those programs there. But what we really hear from is the teachers who are able to collaborate in a very different way. It's an amazing thing to be able to see our 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and then into kindergarten programs, those teachers really be able to talk about students, what their needs are, and facilitate more and more successful transitions for those students. Based on that success, we had a lot of conversation with Dr. Wells' blessing this year. For next year, we'll be shifting our programming from Central Elementary School to Amherst Elementary School and creating that northern end hub following that same model we have there at Madison Heights. It really does allow us to focus some of that coaching and professional development, some of those related services, other folks like speech pathologists, occupational therapists that are coming in working with students. It really provides a very different environment for those students to be in. So we're excited about that. I know it's always tough for staff to move their home base from one school to another, but it's been a great transition thus far and giving them plenty of time this summer to get in, set up those classrooms, and be ready for day one. So excited about that shift for next year. Ms. Albert's giving you a summary of what those look like going into the school year. I will note that the numbers at the bottom in regards to enrollment have updated since the memo was written. That's the numbers that I gave you earlier this evening. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Okay. Board, anything for Mr. Neighbors?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we're expanding the program or moving the program?
So at this point, we're moving. We had 2 pre-K classrooms at Central Elementary School that we're relocating to Amherst Elementary School. Very similar to what we did last year from Amelon to Madison Heights. Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay. Anything else, board?
Mr. Chair, I'm
Yes,
just
ma'am.
excited to see the programs growing.
As are we. That's
Yeah.
where we want to be growing. We want to serve those students as early as we possibly can. And again, if anyone's listening, bring them in. We want to be able to work with those students as quickly as we can next year.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Thanks, sir.
final bullet from me. We did receive our report card, our special education performance report from the state. I will remind the board, it's attached there on board docs. Most of this data is either 1 to 2 years old, so we're getting it a little bit delayed from when we actually submitted some of this data and when the state collects that data from us. On the Virginia Department of Education website, all of these reports go back about 6 years, so kind of seeing how that's progressed prior to COVID and then since. As is usually the case here in Amherst, a lot of our compliance indicators are strong, so those timelines that we need to meet, making sure we're following process appropriately, documenting everything the way that we need to. I'm thrilled. The very last indicator, 14, this is the first year since COVID we have hit that benchmark for our outcomes for students. So seeing students in college, in a job, gainfully employed a year out from employment. So hitting that last one, that was a major milestone for us this year, and couldn't say enough about the work that our high school staff is doing to get our students there. That said, with this report, we recognize that there is work to be done, especially when we're talking about performance, when we're talking about that work on the standards of learning, those SOL assessments, but also relative to students who are not identified with a disability. So we know we have some ground that we need to continue continue to make up there. That's not necessarily different from where we've been even pre-COVID. We know that's always an area of need for our students, but a continued area, a continued goal for our program, the work that we're putting in for students each and every day. This is the last year we expect to see that dip in graduation. So this report, as well as the one before, we dipped a little bit lower than we are used to in regards to that graduation rate. We lost a little bit of that buoyancy from COVID, but we know that's going to come back up with our next report card next year with the tracking that we do internally. That's 2 years old, those graduation rates, as opposed to the other data that's only a year old at this point. So work to be done, but a lot of good things here to be said about our staff, our teachers, those working with these students, being able to see that progress pre-K all the way through after graduation.
Okay.
Again, be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Board, anything else for Mr. Neighbors? Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Next, we have Mr. Gallagher with resources.
All right, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Several documents for you this evening. The first is our monthly vacancy report for your review. You can see that in front of you. This was posted for you Friday. Since then, we have hired 6 of those positions, which I'm happy to say that's a nice change. But one of the elementary teachers, the physical education teacher from AES, TES, middle school alternative education program teacher, 2 instructional assistants, and one of our 2 maintenance. We have hired those positions, so happy about that, but we continue to strive to fill the rest as we move forward. So any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Board, anything for Mr. Gallagher?
Okay, all right. The next item is something that we provide to you each June, and that is our professional staff exit survey. And I will thank Dr. Wanda Rose, who is not with us, and she's also on vacation. So she compiled this information and sent these surveys out. One thing you'll notice there that we had 30 individuals that we had sent this to as far as leavers or exiters. And some of those individuals, a lot of those are actually individuals that will leave as of June 30. 21 respondents, which is strong for us. That's a 70% response rate. Sometimes it ebbs around 40 or 50 at times. So I appreciate that and the work that Dr. Rose put into that. One thing that is nice to see is that 100% of the respondents indicate that they would recommend ACPS as a good place to work. So certainly appreciate that of those that left. But we do also ask them, when they leave, what were some of the primary reasons that they left and that went into their decisions, and also what are some things that may have made you reconsider that or to stay. And you can see the number of respondents is listed there, so not all of the 21 respond to every question in there. But as typical, the primary response is for personal reasons, which is a variety of things, whether individuals moved, retirement, the commute, break in service with intent to return. There are times, I think, over the last 2 years, there's a handful of individuals that have left the profession with not intending to return as well. Compensation and benefits, that stands out with 19 responses that it was a factor. Salary and insurance benefits. Professional resources, or reasons, like basically the workload, job responsibilities, change in career, different things like that. The learning climate was one of the responses that factored in as well. Student discipline, workload, and school culture, and those are things that have come up in past years as well. Not maybe the substantial factors, but they are factors, which is important to know. School and community, and there are responses there that you can look at and see how the lack of support, or just the support from community and so forth, for some of those folks with only 6 responses. If we got less than 5 responses, they may not have been reported here just due to the low number. So we also see here some of the factors that may have helped them stay or factor into that. And pay increases, of course, you would expect to see that. 38% of the respondents indicated that. Time to plan. We are all very busy, and I know that extra time for planning would certainly help alleviate some of those things, and fewer discipline issues were some of the reasons that they indicated. But the importance of the survey really is for professional development. We share these results out with our administrators. We use this data, too, as a focus for how we plan, for example, during our principals meetings or in leadership, on how we continue to focus on supporting all of our educators, and not only teachers. This is specifically professional staff, but we do talk about supporting all of our educators and all the employees of Amherst County Public Schools and ways that we can do that in order to retain them so that we're not having to recruit nearly as much. But happy to take any comments or questions that you have regarding that data.
Board, anything for Mr. Gallagher?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I remember seeing this report last year. I just don't remember what was on it last year
Sure.
and how many people responded to it. But I would like to be able to get that information from maybe the past 2 or 3 years, just to compare some notes, see if I'm sure you're looking at
No, you
things.
can-
I
I'll
want to
certainly
see what
provide
you're
it.
seeing
Yeah.
because you're reviewing the data from past years, so. it'd be
I
nice
can
to
provide
see
that
if
for you.
we're-
They're also in board reports from past meetings, but I can pull it for you, actually, make it easier and just provide that to you. You'll see some typical trends and responses. It's not going to be identical, of course, but some of the reasons do tend to be the same. And then, throughout the years, different things going on, whether it was COVID or return to learn, some of the different things may have ebbed and flowed and risen at different times. Returning to learn, maybe, that first year back and discipline and students kind of re-engaging in instruction. So things ebb and flow a little bit, but mostly similar. I can provide that to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Terry?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I am looking at the one from last year. I really appreciated in this year's report how you identified the number of respondents in the different categories. And so I'm looking at last year's, and the student discipline behavior was 38% as far as a factor. But whereas this year, it was like 80%? 80%. Yes, of those 10 responders. So we don't know how many people responded in the previous one. And then the other one was lack of support from parents, community. Last year was 31%. This year, it was like 68, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so what would be helpful, you're right, would be have the comparable measure of the number of respondents, because that does matter. For example, with the student discipline, so 8 out of 10 who responded indicated that that was a factor. So that would be helpful, in which we can go back and find that information.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate the report because I think it just sort of flags things for us. But I'd be interested in knowing how the teachers are currently feeling that are working for us. Because if this is a flag and student discipline is 80% of 21 respondents, that's not very many people. There could be a teacher who was new and had some classroom management issues. But if it's a flag and we're going to use the data, maybe we should be asking, how are our current teachers feeling? Do they see that the discipline is an issue? Because at the end of next year, we might even see more that have left because of that, if it is. I mean, we see salary and insurance benefits at 42.9% of the respondents, and I think we already, as a board, recognize that, and we're working on that. And discipline, we've talked about in the past, but to see, as Mrs. Justice said, for it to have gone up from last year to this year, maybe we need to be asking our employees, what we're doing, is it working?
Yes, ma'am.
How do we support our students? How do we support our staff? But maybe how are they feeling about it now before they leave?
Correct.
It's not a bad idea. And we've also been working this year, particularly with leadership, to begin doing like stay interviews, pulse checks, and things within their faculties to get a bead on how individuals are feeling and how we can better support individuals. So those efforts are beginning and will continue to expand into next year, but maybe even more of a global, check of the pulse and some of these same questions just to get a feel for how people are feeling. It's not a bad idea.
I think it'd be important to phrase it the same question to current staff versus those that are leaving, so you can get true data versus using different
Keep the
questions.
controls. Keep the controls the same.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ms. Saunders.
I like to piggyback on what Ms. Thompson said. is that the next question is, and what are we going to do to support that? What are we going to do to change? Because hearing from teachers, we hear this a lot, or I know I have here lately. And so I would hope that we come up with some support for our staff.
That is the plan. As I was indicating, we use that data as we work with professional development and with our leadership team. And Dr. Rose and I kind of lead those practices there.
Anything else, board?
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you. So the next is an informational memo at your place, and this is basically a summary of the health insurance survey that we sent out. You probably received a copy of that. And we asked individuals who currently participate in our medical insurance program to just give some feedback on some possible changes to the rates there and the deductibles and so forth, in an attempt to become potentially more competitive regionally with those benefits. So we wanted to show some of those results to you as a preliminary informational piece. May bring that back in July for discussion, but you can kind of walk through that, look at the number of individuals who are enrolled in the plan, the number of respondents, and of those respondents, how many are currently participating in the plan, what type of plan they have, whether it's the lower high deductible or HSA, and whether they're on employee only, employee child, and so forth, and kind of what their thoughts were with the possible changes that we were thinking about and considering through the survey. And then on the second page, you can see actually the data that we had sent out as far as some possible considerations for change that we're trying to get a pulse and figure out if people feel that would be beneficial to all of them if those changes were made. So that's a culmination of the data for your review. A discussion will be in July, and we'll bring it back for further discussion, not necessarily for voting, but needing to get some input from you all who are very involved in our insurance planning and have had discussions about that during our retreat and other times during the budget process.
Board, any questions on information provided by Mr. Gallagher? Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Where are we, Dr. Wells?
You're up to me. No
There you
students tonight, so it's my turn. All right. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, just briefly go through a few things from me. Testing updates. Just want to give you a couple things here that our SOL numbers for scores are too preliminary for me to give you a rough number. They're still really rough. We're waiting on those scores to come back in. But anecdotally, we are seeing some great gains in some areas. We're seeing a couple areas where we haven't seen the gains we were hoping, but overall, we are trending in a positive direction there. I do want to let you know that so far this year, not counting summer school, we have given 23,561 assessments this year. So if you think about that, that's just not SOL tests, that's other assessments, that's mid-years, that's everything else that we have to give. And some of these, elementary have to give those tests, PALs, and everything. That's just total assessments. You have the memo there at your place for the breakdown of that, but you don't realize how many tests we give across the board. And again, some of these are SOL, some of these are mid-year, some of these are other types of assessments we have to give, but just give you an idea there. From the budget side of things, on the CALC tool, we finally received it Memorial Day. I think I sent y'all a text or an email about that. It's about a $9,000 difference in a negative direction from what you had approved. We feel that we can make up that $9,000 and not be in a negative spot with that, given the big picture here. But it is $9,000 less in funding than we had budgeted. But again, we feel very comfortable with the raises and everything else. It did change a couple of pots around as far as where the money's being put, but total budget-wise was a $9,000 difference. So we feel comfortable with that budget and where we were. So we don't see any need to make any changes or anything else to our budget.
Okay.
I do want to take a moment also to congratulate our seniors and wish them the best as they move on into life after high school and pursue other challenges, the next phase of their lives. But I also want to thank them for how they carried themselves at graduation. I thought they did very well. They were asked not to throw beach balls and stuff until after the speeches were done, and they did. The $100 bills were nice. Too bad they weren't real. But I do want to thank them for how they carried themselves at graduation, and it was a very nice ceremony, and I felt really good about the ceremony. So just want to thank them for that and wish them the best as they move on into life. The next item is from the Sheriff's Office. You may have, most of you know that recently they did some investigations, and they went into 4 of our vape shops in the Madison Heights area of the county, and based on some information they had received, and recovered some things that shouldn't be in the county. And so, but I do want to thank Sheriff Ayers and his team for doing that, because we're seeing it in our discipline. You see it when we have our discipline hearings, that these vape shops are getting these types of vapes, these THC vapes, to our students who are underage and they're not 21. They're not legally able to possess them, but they're still being sold by some. I don't know if everyone of them selling them, but we know that's happening. So I appreciate the Sheriff's Office taking the lead on this and trying to do some things to kind of curtail some of the issues we're facing with this in our community. We had a parent tell me that they didn't get the vape at home and it's the school's fault. Well, we're not making vapes at school and we're not selling vapes at school. It's coming from our community. It's not coming from the school. We're dealing with it the best we can, but these are school issues, but we're not selling vapes for $10 a piece as fundraisers at school, right? We're bringing them to the school from somewhere, and it's up to our community to step up and actually do something about that and stop this from happening. So I encourage all of our parents, please look at your students' backpacks and things like that before they leave the house for school come August and see what's in there. It'll save us all a lot of headache. The next is a cell phone regulation, and the cell phone regulation, reviewed this with Mr. Wright, our school board attorney. He said he had no issues with it. I know that this is going to be something that's going to cause some items of contention, possibly some of our parents. But if you look at your discipline at the school and look at the issues we're having at school, and you're looking at our student attentiveness and being on task at school, cell phones play a big issue in that. And though we have an often out of sight expectation at school, those are school-based, so we wanted to do something that is division level. So when something happens, it's a school division expectation. It's not just the high school or Manellison or Amherst Middle or whatever. We have some meat to it from the division. So there's things in there about what students are expected to do. There are things in there about what staff is expected to do and what parents are expected to do. So it covers all 3 avenues of that. And so, yes, there are expectations that students are not going to have their cell phones on and carried with them during the school day. Their expectations, we'll give them somewhere to cook. They all get a locker at the secondary level, and the expectation is those phones will be there. When they walk in the building, they go there. When they leave, they can pick it up and walk out. There's some disciplinary expectations in there as well, some consequences if not. We had a committee of administrators on this, and those administrators also have students in our division, so I felt we had a little bit of both covered there. But we also think we need to do this because our students are so distracted from these wonderful devices that they can't focus. And you also have the issues where, when there are fights and we try to figure out how the fight started, well, somebody texted somebody and they message back and forth, and the next thing you know, they say, well, meet me here, and they meet, and then we have our fight. Or, hey, who has a vape? And they reach out and they get the vape from somebody. They meet in the bathroom, meet me in the bathroom to get this. So a lot of our discipline, even though it's not directly a cell phone violation, it results from these things at school. Now, what they do outside of school, I have no control over. But what we do in school, I do. And I feel, the team feels, the administrators feels it's something we need to do. And we will do our best to advertise this to parents. We will advertise this to students starting in July and make sure everybody knows what the expectations are and if we, and what the consequence is going to be if you don't live this expectation. So I want to give this to you. Again, it is a regulation if followed under JFC-R2. So it's under school board policy JFC. Regulation will be R2 under policy JFC, which is student conduct, student discipline. Any questions or comments on that?
Board? Yes, ma'am.
Well, Dr. Wells, I know that when I've been in the schools, especially the high school and the middle schools, the teachers are like, we need to get rid of these cell phones. And so I really appreciate the opportunity here to, the work you've done in this regulation. And I look forward to seeing data in time. I believe our academics and even our mental health stuff is going to improve, as some schools are finding.
Yes. I've spoken with a couple of schools in our area. I won't name them, but they've also had policies like, or regulations like this in place, and they're seeing an improvement in student outcome and behaviors as well as mental health.
Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir.
The cell phone technology, I know we've talked about it before. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I expect pushback. However, I agree that the cell phones need to go. My kids were going to school before cell phones were really children's things, you know. But I'm afraid that a lot of parents are going to be pushing back good and hard. I brought a suggestion up, and I think we really want to consider this. And cell phone jammers are going to be the way to do it. These cell phones are not inexpensive. I find it hard pressed that a parent is going to okay their child to leave it in a locker. It'd be great if they just leave it home, but a lot of these parents are tracking their children with their phones. So when the school calls and says, so and so was absent today, wait a second, I know they're there. Well, their phone's there, you know. And I think jamming signals for the cell phones is the way to go, because they won't be able to communicate. They will be able to take pictures and use their phone. However, there won't be that continuity between phones. So Susie's not going to be able to message Sally and say, meet me for a vape. You know, and we could just turn it on, and you won't have to worry about the cell phones being a distraction.
So we're trying to do this first to see how this works.
Yeah, it's...
And technology-wise, I know Fluvanna has, we got to talk to them a little bit more. They have a system that they're using there. We're going to look at that a little bit more. The issue we have is our alert system to our staff. Emergency alert system to our staff is also cell-based.
Yep.
So if we do the jammers for the whole school, then our staff can't get alerts regarding emergency communications and stuff too. So we're looking at, we want to try the most inexpensive round first. And if it doesn't work or we need to come back, then yes, the jammers, something we're looking at, and also the pouches. They have the pouches now that are magnetic pouches. And you can use those, but they would run us about $60,000 for the secondary schools. So we try to go with what doesn't cost first, but if we need to look into that further, yes, I agree that the jammers would be a way to do that. And if we need to get to that point, you know, we'll get to that point. But I'm just trying to work with the non-monetary range first before we got into spending money.
I understand. It's just, it's going to be a lot of pushback.
It will be.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Wells, I support 100%. I think that our students need to be focused on their instruction, and I know that it causes a lot of issues with discipline. We've already talked about that tonight. So I do support that. You know, one of the things that being a teacher, is when we've been asked to do things, and certain teachers follow along, and then you have one that's not. It sort of defeats the purpose, and unless we have a full team on board, then it's not going to be as effective.
Yes,
so I
ma'am.
want to encourage all of our teachers to be responsible to follow this regulation. And then just a side note, very small thing, under parental involvement and responsibility, refers to this document as a policy instead of regulation.
I'll
So
need
it's
to
just a
correct that.
wordsmith.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. But
Okay.
thank you very much. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
I hope we see good results from it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Board, anything else for Dr. Wells? Dr. Wells, anything else for us?
That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Gotcha. All right. So moving on to committee reports and our individual reports. So, Ms. Saunders, how about you kick it off?
I know, I get to be first again. Well, I want to first thank staff and teachers, administration, students, and parents for a great school year. Good job. And I hope everybody enjoys their vacation, their time off. We've recognized so many students over this last school year. It makes me really very proud of our students and our staff. It's always my favorite part of the meeting, so I don't know what I'm going to do for July. And also, speaking of something that Mr. Neighbors said, and I think it's echoed a lot, is that we never settle for it's good enough. We just don't settle for that, and I think that says a lot about who we are in Amherst County. So thank you for not settling for good enough. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rossi?
Yes, another year, another graduating class, and graduation ceremony was amazing. I love sitting up there and seeing all the families, and I know we had a discussion about, maybe with the addition having graduation to high school, but then sitting in that auditorium and seeing all those family and friends joining in, and the parents, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, they all make it happen. It's not just that student. The family's support, the teachers, the staff, everything has to come together to make that graduation possible. And the amount of data that gets collected, the testing, I don't know how your staff does it. I honestly don't know, because that's a lot of hard work, and I can speak for myself as a board member. I appreciate everything coming together and giving it to us and letting us get the data, process it, and take the time to make the right decisions for our division, for our schools, and for our children, for our community. I was a little concerned when I looked up and saw some of the issues were lack of community support and parent support for the teachers, and I'm disappointed, that teachers feel that way. And, the Show Up Amherst initiative was something that this community needed. And I think it's definitely moved the bar up a little bit. And I think it's very successful, and I'd like to see it continue. And, another year that was a good year. And not to say we haven't had our difficulties or our problems. We work through them, and we keep moving forward. It doesn't stop for us. We have a bad day, we have a bad week. We keep moving forward, because it's not about us. It's not about me sitting here. It's not about you sitting there. It's about Amherst and putting Amherst first. And I just want to say thank you for another great year, and looking forward to next year.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Justice?
Thank you, Mr. Terry. So, Gov School didn't meet. They are all graduated, and it was such a joy at the graduation ceremony to sit on the platform and see our Gov School students there. I was really impressed by the speeches made by our students, the depth of maturity, and what I would consider eternal values, things that aren't based on stuff or even accomplishments, but was really focused on relationships. And there's a saying, it doesn't matter, let's see, I'm not certain I can get it correct. It's not the number of breaths you take, but it's the number of memories that take your breath away. I can't remember. Yeah, that take your breath away. And I really felt like the students really grasped that. And in many respects, I think that is reflective of the last 4 years for them since COVID. And the overcoming and the relationship building, plus the losses of people they really cared about, that helps us remember to enjoy today. Think about tomorrow, plan about it, prepare, but don't forget to value the moments you have today with the people you have today. And that was really impressive. I appreciated all your hard work. I look forward to maybe getting the feedback from our teachers who are in the schools and staying. And I really appreciate the effort to collect the data in a consistent manner so that things are compared equally, basically, as far as value. And I had the privilege to be at the D-Day Memorial today, and what an honor to be Americans, to be living in Central Virginia, to be participating in the educational program of our kids, and to work with all of you. And you hear a lot of times that Central Virginia is kind of a bubble. And I like to think that it's a light that can spread out, and that there's no reason that bubble can't get bigger and the hope can't spread. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ligon.
Oh, that was good stuff, I was receiving. Well, yes, I echo the graduation, as Ms. Justice said, just real special this year. All of them are, but I did enjoy the speeches, and I had a few people around town just saying how much they enjoyed the entire graduation this year. So I thought kudos to the high school and all the people that did that. I attended the Lowell graduation last week, week before last, and they had two young people graduating, both from the city of Lynchburg this time. Dr. Evans was able to present those, and so that was a good event. And then on Friday, Manellison had their 8th grade promotion. I was over there. I had a family member, but it was also a good chance to drop in, and a wonderful job done by Mr. White and his staff there. Quite a few 8th graders are going to be coming up to the big house, as I call it, and from the south side of town, so not to mention what's coming from Amherst, but it was a good time by all. And in between that, somehow that day I did attend the virtual law conference for the VSBA, which is one of the things I do every year. You pick up a few more things there. Some you already know, some you reinforce. A lot of COIA and FOIA, that we already are doing quite well here in Amherst, but just the reminders. A lot of information on AI. That's a big topic all over the United States, all in education processes, how we're going to handle it, who's doing what. Got a little something out of there. And then, of course, the legislative agenda, which we all get from J.T. Kessler every 5 minutes. But nothing surprisingly happened, I don't think, he said, in the General Assembly this time. Some bills passed and some didn't, but we can look those up because he has sent those to us. So I enjoyed that. I remember the last day of school and the first days of school, like they're all coming together now quicker than they used to be. So I am excited that we made another successful year, and I think we're very proud of the children here in Amherst. I'm always looking at preschool and kindergarten, and I just talked to Mrs. Neighbors about that. I used to be against kids going earlier and earlier. So you need to be at home and watch the cartoons and Flintstones. That's old news. The earlier you can get into a preschool event, the more successful you'll be in kindergarten, first grade. So I'm excited that we're working together with all these preschoolers, which we'll see in 12 years or less, the results of how soon they came to preschool. And I, too, was looking at the numbers with the surveys and the evaluations from those exiting the county. If you give somebody something to write on, they're going to write something. I did see some positive things, and Mr. Rossi, I agree that we wonder how anyone can say anything about the community and the parents. Well, here we have PTOs in every school. You have parent-teacher conferences. You have back-to-school night, in-between school night. Parents can just go out there. I don't think there's any teacher that wouldn't talk to a parent if necessary, and vice versa. And then, of course, we show up at Amherst, and the tailgate parties we had that Dr. Wells and his people put on. I think we're doing all we can. I don't mind people saying we're not. I'd like to know exactly what they're talking about one of these days, because I don't know what else can be done. It's a small town, 1 high school, 2 middle schools, and a few elementary schools. And you don't go into any food line or any Walmart that a parent won't run into a teacher, and vice versa. So I'm encouraging, if people leave our system, Because of those two things, I'm not sure what else can be done. Maybe there is some miracle that we can look in, but I think we're covering those things. And here again, as I conclude, I look at exits interviews a lot on other things, and people have a reason that they move on. Sometimes it's like I saw on their other family commitments, maybe money, and maybe not money all the time. You know, you got to realize that you're a teacher and you accepted that position with not a $100,000 salary attached to it. So I'm just throwing that in there as we go forward next year. I'm hoping that we can clear up some of that the best that we can. And I know the school board is out there. I'm out there seeing parents and teachers, and but I do find that some parents, and I'm saying this because I'm hoping somebody's listening, don't be afraid to talk to your teacher. On the other end of the deal, the teacher should not be afraid to contact the parent when things are going downhill. Don't wait till all the F's are in at the end of the year and somebody say, well, I should have. When you see a student going in a different direction, somebody ought to jump in. So that's just my thoughts on those. But I had a good year. I'm looking forward to another good year. And I'm looking for, I guess this is summertime, I'm not sure, but, you know, those who are off, it might be summertime. I'm just still working. That's all I got right now.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Thompson?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'd like to thank Mrs. Burley and the yearbook staff for the yearbook. I mean, they're just beautiful. I can't wait to get home. I told Mrs. Ligon, I said, if you give these out in school, had, you know, instructions over, so maybe that means our meeting was over, but that didn't happen. So I'll go home and look at it. But thank you, it's beautiful. They always do a great job. Also want to just say thank you to the Amherst Education Foundation for all that they do and all of their support. I was excited and thankful for the grant, the construction grant that we received. That was an answer to prayer. And I know that was not just a happenstance. That was something y'all put a lot of work and effort into understanding and applying, so thank you. And the preschool numbers, the programs that we have this year and the growth, I was really excited about that. I also felt what has been expressed tonight about graduation. It was a wonderful event, and I've been to quite a few now, but I just sensed from the students just such respect and appreciation for their diploma and their experience here in Amherst County. I remember the first one that I attended. I'm not going to talk to you about what was said at those speeches, but it has come full circle, and it just made my heart feel so good because you could tell those students were ready to go out into the world. So thank you and your team for what you're doing. You did a great job with those kids. And I just wanted to say that I'm thankful for the individual and the collective work and dedication that everybody's done this year, every member of our ACPS family. And as we close our year, I saw this, I'm not going to take credit for it, but I saw this on the internet. Didn't even say who wrote it, so I just have to put it out there. It's not mine. But I just thought it was beautiful, and maybe just take a moment to reflect. It says, at the end of this school year, we give thanks for all the teaching and learning that has taken place in our school, both in and out of the classroom, for the talents and gifts that have been shared and the challenges that have been faced, for the burdens that have been lifted and the hurts that have been healed, for the respect and care that has been given. We give thanks for the friendships that we have just begun and for those that have grown, for the faith that has been lived in our daily struggles, for the hope that has been lifted for the hope that has lifted our hearts on the dark days, and for the love that has kept us going. We give thanks for the community that we are. We ask blessings on our students, staff, and their families over the summer. May our time apart leave us with cherished memories and return us refreshed and renewed so that we may continue our journey together again. I just thought it was very, very appropriate because that's what you guys have done. So thank you, and thank your team and all the staff.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but graduation was awesome. You know, seeing them go off and you know they're all going their own separate ways, and some to college, some to work, some to start families, all those things. It's a great thing to see them succeed, and they all, you know, they were all happy. And you don't always see that when you get that many teenagers together, but they were all happy. So it was a good thing. I do want to give a quick shout out to Sheriff Ayers. Thank you for what you've done here recently. I know myself and the rest of the board, like you said, we sit in on the discipline meetings, and we've seen the outcome of where we have been, and hopefully we can improve in the community so that the teachers do feel like they get some more of that community support. So thank you, Sheriff Ayers, if you're listening out there. I did get to go to the retiree recognition dinner, and that's always a neat event. And we talked about how much the retirees had touched so many of the other teachers. And, you know, we need to remind the teachers that are still there, you know, each day they're touching another teacher also. So, you know, be that positive influence for them and help them out. I mean, it's, you inspire people and you don't even realize it. So it's great to see that. I did get to go to the 5th grade dance party for Elon. Elon Elementary, went last day of school. I DJ'd the event. It was a lot of fun. Those kids had a really good time. And Mr. Rossi, I completely agree with you. Let's put Amherst first. Put Amherst first, and it'll all come together. All the events that we had this year, bringing the community together. If we can continue that kind of thing, I think we're right on track where we want to be. And to the students who now have the summer off, get you some rest, but don't get too much. Don't lose what you've learned. Come back next year ready to go. We look forward to another great school year. So thanks for all the reports everybody gave us. All the student recognitions, that's a new thing for this year. Like to see that continue because it boosts them up, it boosts the teachers up. So it's a great thing. So thank you, Dr. Wells, and staff.
Oh, and by the way, summer school starts Monday. All right. So pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, it is recommended the board convene a closed meeting for the following: A1, personnel matters. Personnel matters and the superintendent's contract will be discussed.
Okay. Board, can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we go into closed session for the reasons stated.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.